Rachel Wiest from Traingle MLS, and I'm here to talk with Stacy Anfinson. Hello, Stacy.
Hello, Rachel.
We're going to talk about the first quarter of 2015. The year is flying by, and we're going to look at a couple of numbers from March. So let's start with showings.
Well, we're inside today in front of this beautiful map of the world because it's raining outside, so weather tends to affect real estate. It certainly affected it in February. We talked about the winter weather and what an issue it was and how the showings were adversely affected. But in March, everybody came out of their house and they looked at houses. Yippee. So,
wonderful.
First quarter showings were up 7%. March showings were up 6% compared to March of a year ago, but March showings were up 43% compared to February. So that was
my heavens.
Huge increase.
That is, everybody must have been on the internet in February and then out actually looking at houses in March.
It's tough to look at houses when you can't get your car out of the driveway.
That's correct. That's correct. Well, okay, so let's talk about inventory. How are the inventory levels?
Well, inventory is down 16%. It did increase 2% compared to February. So once again, that was you would hope to have seen that after February. You're not going to put your house on the market when there's snow and ice in the driveway.
Sure.
New home inventory decreased 5%. That's really hasn't been happening, so that really isn't a good sign.
Yeah.
And resale inventory down 19%. So. And then you look at houses listed during the quarter, it was flat compared to the first quarter of last year. So we really, really, really need inventory.
Yes.
If you've got more people looking for houses and fewer houses to look at, that's where you get that scenario of multiple offers and houses selling for above list price.
Right, and more pressure on buyers to make decisions.
Yes.
If they're going to go for a house, they've got to go for it. They can't really waste a lot of time thinking about it. There were a couple of streaks that you noticed.
Yeah, we don't like these streaks. Resale inventory is on a 9-month streak where it's lower than it was the previous year's month. So it's not 9 consecutive months, but we're comparing March to March and February to February. So it's 9 months of those types of comparison. And then overall inventory is on a 7-month streak, lower than it was the prior year's month. So this isn't really shocking news for anybody watching this video, but we really, really need inventory out there.
Right, right. Yes, it's true. We're continuing to follow our trend. Well, how are pendings?
Pendings, again, as we've talked about in January and February, very strong percentage numbers, up 39%, up 35% compared to March of 14. But once again, a large portion of that percentage is due to the addition of the contingencies in there. So when you're looking at closed sales up 10% and pendings up 35%, you're thinking something's wrong with that, and that's really, it's a different way of categorizing the pending sales.
That would be true. That would be true, I suppose. But it's still a good trend.
It is. It is.
It's still positive.
And you can look at, one of the metrics we look at is what percentage of contract pendings of the total inventory went under contract. 47% of the inventory went under contract during the month. So that's a sign of a hot market. That's almost unprecedented.
Exactly. Exactly. So then you mentioned closed sales.
Closed sales up 11% year to date. First quarter closed sales also up 11%, and March closed sales were up 20%. So
my heavens.
I think our winter weather last year bled into March more than it did this year, so that's really why the percentage increases in March were so strong. Okay.
Well, and as people gain confidence and start to think that the world isn't going to fall apart, more people have started to make their move. Days on market impact?
Well, 67, as we talked about, pretty much every video this month and last year, it's in the 60s, and that's really what we'd expect to see given where inventory is at.
That's pretty normal. Absolutely. How about, has this impacted average price?
It has, but not to the extent where it's been in other neighborhoods or in other parts of the country. 2% overall, 2% resale. That's nice. That's pretty much historic, what we see. Historical average, not historic in that fashion, but it's one of those things where we're pretty fortunate in our market where we don't have to deal with 10 and 20% price increases, because then you think about struggling to figure out house prices now. Think if that was the case. Right. So 2% is a historical norm, so that's good to see. Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next month.